Today's video is brought to you by creativesdothis.com. The neighbours assumed that he'd already left. A few days earlier, Alessandro Venier had been telling people that he was heading to Colombia, that he was moving there for good, to start over with his girlfriend and their baby daughter. Kind of strangely though, nobody saw him packing up his stuff, but there were whispers that his visa was already sorted and his documents were prepped and ready to go. He'd even said goodbye to one or two friends. So when things fell quiet at the house on Via dei Lotti, most people just shrugged it off or thought nothing at all. But behind that silence, something was badly wrong. Inside that home, the 6-month-old baby could sometimes be heard crying, and Alessandro was now completely unreachable. His mother, Lorena Venier, was still pushing the baby's stroller through town and smiling at neighbours as though nothing had changed. But as you can already tell, some things weren't adding up. When police finally stepped inside that house, the truth was, well, I'm gonna let you know throughout this video. And it's not what you're thinking. It's somehow much, much worse. By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. I bring you rare and unseen true crime cases, as well as other things that you may later regret knowing, with multiple uploads every single week. So if all of that sounds like your kind of thing, then make sure you join the Dark Case family now by hitting subscribe and turning all notifications on. And now for today's silly little question. What is your absolute favourite go-to takeaway order? Let me know down in the comments. All of your support over on Patreon, as well as right here via channel memberships on YouTube, are so appreciated, and I really can't thank you all enough. However, of course, thank you. And now, on with the video. And just a quick note, I do apologise for my Italian pronunciations, but I am dyslexic, so cut me some slack, please. Thank you. Alessandro Venier had always talked about leaving Italy. In fact, many people around him believed that he was about to do just that. The 35-year-old lived in Gemona del Friuli, a quiet mountain town in the far northeast of Italy. He was unemployed, picking up the occasional odd job, and staying in the same house as his girlfriend Mailyn, as well as their baby daughter, and his mother, Lorena Venier. He'd been speaking openly about returning to Colombia, the place where he and Mailyn had once opened a small restaurant together. He said that he missed the pace of life there, that he wanted to start afresh, and more importantly, he wanted/needed to go soon, before certain legal issues in Italy could block him from leaving the country. To his friends, he was clear. This move was to be permanent. He even implied that Mailyn and the baby would be going with him. Keeping a young family together did seem to make sense. But according to the people closest to him, that was never actually going to happen, because there was one obstacle in the way. A pretty big one. This video is sponsored by Creatives Do This, a platform that I've helped to launch that features real interviews with real artists, candle makers, musicians and creatives of all kinds who are making it work. Right now we're looking for creatives to feature, so if you've made money from your creativity, whether it's a full-time career or a new side hustle, and you want to share how you did it, we'd love to hear your story. It's just a short text-based interview and it takes around 10 minutes. And in return you get free lifetime access to everything that the platform becomes. Plus your work will get featured to inspire others and to build your brand. Hit the link in the description or the pinned comment to take the quick interview and to become one of the 100 founding members. There's now less than 50 spaces left. www.creativesdothis.com. Lorena, his 61-year-old mother, didn't want to lose access to her granddaughter, nor did she want Mailyn, whom she'd come to see as the daughter I never had, to disappear overseas. Still though, it seems that nobody actually voiced these concerns aloud. I guess sometimes if you don't talk about something, it feels like it'll just go away. To the outside world though, the family looked like they were simply preparing for a big transition. People stopped seeing Alessandro, Mailyn stopped talking to their neighbours, But Lorena continued to act as if everything was normal, doing her grocery shopping, taking strolls, pushing the baby in the pram. But behind closed doors, things had already gotten very, very dark. On July the 31st, a call came into emergency services from Via di Lotti. The woman on the line was distressed, her voice was shaking. She said there was a body in a house. Within the hour, officers arrived at the Venier residence, with mother Lorena meeting them at the door, whilst holding her granddaughter in her arms. Mailyn stood nearby, pale and silent. The officers entered cautiously. What they found in the garage of that home didn't look much at first. A large bin sealed tight. Inside though, a nauseating smell hit them instantly. Chemical, foul, and often tied to inhuman acts. The bin had been packed with quicklime, which is kind of weird, but beneath that, they found the remains of Alessandro Venier. He had been dismantled into 3 sections. Each part was carefully wrapped and sealed. There was no splatter or spatter at the scene, no mess, no other sign that anything had happened. Police believed though whoever had done this had experience, or at the very least, good medical knowledge. You see, the cuts were clean, precise and contained. That night, forensic teams worked tirelessly. Meanwhile, word was getting out and it was spreading fast. Soon the town of Gemona was buzzing with quiet panic. A man was now gone. He had been hidden in 3 separate parts, and it had happened right there under their noses. Literally, by the sounds of it, or smell of it. Police didn't announce any arrests immediately. Instead, they quietly escorted both women in the house to the station. Of course, this didn't mean they were guilty, but questions did need answering. Nobody yet knew who was responsible. All that they now knew was that Alessandro hadn't emigrated after all. He wasn't just a missing person. He wasn't starting his new life. Instead, the very opposite. He'd been there, at home with his family, the entire time. That phone call that the police received actually came from within that family home. The woman who placed the call was none other than Mailyn Castro Monsalvo, Alessandro's partner and mother of his daughter. Her hands were shaking as she dialed. During the phone call that Mailyn made to emergency services, a voice could also be heard in the background saying, "No, Lorena, no." Then another, "My mother-in-law killed her son." The plan, as Lorena later admitted, was simple and really just ice cold. Keep Alessandro's disappearance quiet for a while, wait until the worst of the smell had passed, and then transport his remains into the mountains and scatter them. It was meant to look like he'd simply left for Colombia. They had documents, they had a story, and they believed that nobody would question it. But what they didn't plan for was the psychological weight of what they had already done. The date was July the 25th. That evening, according to mother Lorena, she made her son a glass of lemonade. She told police that she dissolved an entire blister pack of sleeping pills into that drink. Alessandro drank it without question. Why would he? It was his mother. The plan, Lorena said later, was to put him to sleep peacefully. No pain, no fear, no struggle. But the pills didn't do quite enough. When her son didn't fully lose consciousness, Lorena fetched 2 syringes of insulin that she'd taken years ago from her hospital job. She injected both doses into Alessandro's abdomen. This insulin she had originally taken years earlier, saying that her original plan was to use him for the same purpose but on herself, but she then decided against it, before then realizing that it might solve a different kind of despair. Still though, Alessandro didn't go quietly. He began to stir once again. He was confused, disorientated and weak. He tried to get up. He tried to fight back. And that is when Mailyn, the mother of his child, pressed a pillow over his face. Lorena says that he still didn't stop. And that's when Mailyn took her shoelaces, and she then wrapped them around his neck and pulled. "We stunned him with a sleeping pill at around 5:30 p.m. Lorena later said. He didn't die until almost 11, and then hours later, the house was almost silent. At first, Lorena claimed that the goal was to help Mailyn escape DV, that Alessandro had become violent, and that they were both afraid of him. But when he finally stopped breathing, they were left with a body and no good plan. We didn't think about what to do with the body, she said, but it wouldn't fit in the bin. So Lorena, well, she knew what she had to do. She brought out her hacksaw. She laid down a sheet to catch the vital fluids. She then got to work methodically, leaving 3 pieces, no mess, no splatter. It was clinical, and the police suspicion that the cuts came from someone with medical training was indeed correct. Lorena Venier was a nurse, decades in healthcare, respected and trusted. Nobody would have imagined her capable of this. I thought we could handle everything ourselves, she said. We'd just wait until it was time to scatter him. While Lorena did the cutting, Mailyn had bought lime from Amazon, ordered days earlier. They then moved the remains into the garage, and for almost a week, life, for them at least, just carried on. And so by the next morning there was no sign of Alessandro. No phone calls nor text messages. His friends no longer heard from him. He had been all but erased. Lorena simply told neighbours that he'd left the country already, and Mailyn didn't say much at all. It was as if Alessandro had simply vanished, just a man who'd skipped town. After all, he had already told people that he was moving to Colombia, and the date was fast approaching, so maybe he'd done exactly that. To friends, to family, to neighbours pushing their strollers beside them, no one seemed to suspect a thing, until Mailyn snapped and made the call. Lorena Venier's formal confession took place inside the Trieste prison. It was a 3-hour interview with prosecutors. She didn't hesitate to talk. In fact, she described each step in detail. Methodical, deliberate, as if laying out a difficult medical procedure. The story she told was not only horrifying, but built on a disturbing foundation. She claimed that this had been coming for a long time. Mailyn had been asking me to kill Alessandro for months, she said, ever since the baby was born in January. According to Lorena, her son had become volatile. He insulted Mailyn. He ignored her postnatal depression. He refused to work. He drank heavily. And sometimes he used substances too. But worst of all, she claimed, he hurt them. He threatened to drown her in Colombia. He punched me when I said I'd report him. He said no one would look for her if she disappeared, Lorena said. However, a real issue here is that there were no official complaints on file. There was nothing like police reports or restraining orders. But Lorena insisted that this was because fear had kept them silent. She said that the final trigger was Alessandro's plan to move to Colombia, with Mailyn and the baby in tow. I couldn't let him take them. Maylyn's life was in danger. My granddaughter's life was in danger. I had no choice. She told prosecutors that she viewed Mailyn as family. As we know, she called her the daughter she never had. She simply couldn't bear the thought of losing her. She even explained how they'd planned to protect the baby from the truth. We would have told her only good things about her father, she said. We wanted to spare her from knowing what really happened. Well, that plan sounds almost noble, doesn't it? However, prosecutors dug deeper, and the picture that emerged was far darker than anyone expected. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment decision. The lime had already been purchased from Amazon. They'd been collecting the tools that they would need, and according to Lorena, they chose July the 25th on purpose, just before Alessandro's supposed departure to Colombia. He told friends he was leaving. No one would come looking for him. This was to be the perfect cover. Their story to the outside world was simple, that he'd gone abroad, that he would no longer be in touch, because he needed time. Meanwhile, the bin in the garage began to smell. However, Lorena kept on working as usual, and Mailyn stayed inside caring for the baby as she always did. But the smell kept on growing stronger, and so did the guilt, and then the break. Mailyn called 112, even though Lorena tried to stop her. The bruises on both women later confirmed that it wasn't just a verbal exchange. Mailyn had an emotional collapse. She told officers what had happened, though none of her statements are admissible in court without a lawyer present. Lorena did all the talking. She took full responsibility. She insisted that Mailyn hadn't actually killed Alessandro. However, she did say that she helped. Still, prosecutors found evidence of planning from both of them, and inside the home, officers recovered the tools, the saw, the syringes, the sheets. and realised that the whole scene had been deeply cleaned, but not quite well enough. In the days after the confession, the town of Gemona del Friuli was silent. This shock wasn't simply because of a murder, although that is shocking at the best of times. It was over who had done it. People had known Lorena Venier as a kind and attentive nurse, the kind of person who helped out with flu shots for the elderly and would hold your hand during delivering bad news. And now she was behind bars for dismembering her own son, the baby that was just 6 months old. When her mother and grandmother did what they did was taken into care. For a time, Mailyn requested that the child be sent to her family in Colombia, but that decision is still pending. Meanwhile, Mailyn herself remains in a special reduced custody facility for mothers. Her lawyers argue that she was coerced, emotionally unstable, and a victim of both DV and psychological manipulation, but the prosecution sees it differently. Lorena Venier has been formally charged with aggravated murder and destruction of a corpse. Mailyn Castro Monsalvo is under investigation for instigation to murder. The trial is expected to unfold in the coming months, but one thing has already been decided. Alessandro didn't disappear. He was erased by the people that should have loved him most, by the two people he should have been safest with. Let's keep an eye on this one. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.